Okay, hey, what's up? Bearded Warrior here at your service. If you haven't already been watching, I just bought and received my new Fanatec CSL Wheel Base. Can't really see it in the camera. Wheel Base. I have my Fanatec F1 V2 Wheel, and I got the CSL Pedals with the load cell kit. But even though I did do some racing yesterday, I did a bunch of iRacing yesterday. Then before I went to bed last night, I decided to just throw on some AMS2 really quick and see how that was. However, I had to go through the game and do like the calibration settings on the wheel. It didn't just automatically do it like iRacing did, and so I changed it so I felt, at least comfortable on the AMS2. But today, after the game that shall not be talked about ever again, I jumped into iRacing to go, and my wheel settings were fucked. So I realized now that I, spent all this money and got it all set up, I should probably figure out what all these settings are. So we are both going to be practicing on the track, even though a new one's coming up tomorrow, but practicing on the track. But mainly we're going to be doing some wheel settings. Looks like I can do at least 5, I think it is, custom settings. Yep, I'm just kidding. So I do 5 custom settings, which I want to figure out, per wheel, per game or title that I'm playing, and just kind of get an idea of all of it. And as much as I should probably make a video on it, I also was going to do it right now and just said, fuck it, might as well stream it. So I apologize if this gets boring at any point. I'll do the best I can to verbalize what I'm doing. You can obviously already see my screen. Oh, I keep looking over there because that's where my second monitor is. My second 65. There's a 60-inch TV, which I'm using as my second monitor. And also, if you've been on the channel, you know that I almost solely VR race with my headset. However, it's easier to do it like this. I can change stuff up a bit. And I just built my whole sim racing rig, if you will, which is pretty solid, so hopefully we're good there. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and actually do some shit and try and talk as much as I can through it. Sorry about my voice. Again, there was a fairly big game earlier that we will not ever talk about again, but that's where it went from literal screaming. Alright, so where's my mouse? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and I think one of the first things I really need to start, you can kind of see it on my wheel here, is this is just craziness, especially on straightaways. If I'm turning just a little, even just a little bit, it'll stop. But whenever I'm going straight, man, the wheel is just shaking like crazy. And as much as I would assume to be feeling some sort of, kind of vibration, it just seems like too much. So reading a bunch of it online, I figured out that it's my damper. Need to make it damper. Although I have my natural damper and then game damper. And then there's also in iRacing, you can do your damper settings. So I'm going to, like everything else, I'm going to figure it out. I got my advanced settings turned on, as you see here, rather than the normal ones, which gives me a lot more things to adjust. And we're going to figure out what all of it is. Then, lastly, before I race here, so you know, what we got going on down here is my settings from, I got this pulled over to the other screen, my GNG, Grid and Go, I believe, Grid and Go Virtual Coach, which is not free, unfortunately, but from what I've used it so far is freaking awesome. So we'll look a little bit at that too, because, yeah. Anyway, again, that, just like the settings here, should probably be made into a video, but I'm going to live stream it. Okay, so let's click on the game. The Grid and Go stuff stays. Let's see if I can go to full. Yeah, see, if I go to full screen, it goes away. Although I thought there was a way to do that, so let's figure that out. So much figuring out. Okay, so I read somewhere that It had something to do with full screen, just like it is, full screen borderless. So is that gonna do it? I don't know, let's see. Yeah, no, see, it still goes away. So, this is what we're doing. Get over it. Stop complaining. Alright, let's go back to full screen, no portal, UI zone, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we're good. Okay, let's move this up a little bit here. It's also really, really hard to look at the little graphy dudes while I'm driving. So just reminded myself I'm also going to be recording this session so I can throw it back into Premiere Pro, and then kind of click through it frame by frame and see what's going on. So I'm going to do somewhere around 3 to 5 laps, a couple here to warm up the tires, and then a couple to get some actual test results, and then we'll jump on over to Premiere Pro and check it out. I tell you already, I think it's the first time I've driven this vehicle in the flat screen. Normally I do the normally I do VR, so figure out my fucking seating too. So much stuff. There we go. Okay, so how do I go? No. There we go. Okay, that's as far forward as I can go. Alright. Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay. No, right there. Alright. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, before I've always done this in Damn it. Oh, I'm such a mess right now. My V3, Formula 3. What the hell is the Formula 3, Formula C car. Oh, jeez, I'm fucking all over the place. Okay. So I know that I have only driven it with flat screen with my new sim rig setup here that I built. I've only done it in the Formula C, so driving this car is, man, VR is just, I'm telling you, and I don't have the greatest computer, so my graphics are definitely lacking. My FPS, everything is lacking when it comes to driving in VR. But I'm telling you, once you're ruined and you can never go back. And this is way too fucking loud for me. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, let's hit some. I think we're okay over here. If anybody actually comes into my stream, please comment and tell me how I'm doing on sound. Or please say something, anything. I just want to know you were there. I'd love to get some feedback. So this first lap, obviously. This is just insane. This is not it's worse than normal. What is it? This is going to be over. It's slow. I guess it's
They say you cut the course. You'll have to slow down and give up the time game. You've got wheel damage.
Let's just go completely start over here because that was fucking garbage. And since I did that, and I already know that this is an issue, no, where's this natural friction off? Did I turn it off? I thought I turned it all the way up. I did? I really thought I turned it all the way up. Oh no, yeah. So dampener is at 50. Stands up for dampener 50. Natural friction, that's what I meant. Get your shit together, Tom. Okay, so let's see what that is. What the fuck is this? Like, why? Why is it doing this? I get it that my car's idling and bumping, but why am I getting that much feedback? I don't know. Let's see what we got. I have a feeling it's gonna be really fucked. Really? No, that's not right. Feels tighter to turn, you know. Also, I feel like it's a mechanical rumbling wheel because obviously direct drive doesn't have no gears in it. But this feels similar to a wheel that's kind of like that loose clunky feel. This is fucking horrible. Wow, guys, I'm driving horrible. I mean, I'm paying more attention to what the wheel's doing than the track. Not that I should even try to have any excuse, but... What is this? Turns rough, low resolution force feedback into smooth effects. Higher values will increase smoothing. Find a sweet spot where force feedback isn't missing important details, but doesn't overwhelm you with unnecessary noise. And it's normally at 11. Ooh, but see, I like that. Look at the wheel. See? Now, stops. Alright, well, let's drive for a minute and try not to crash and see what that's like. Not sure if I like the steering. Oh, I know, I can change it right here. Perfect. I am able to change all of those controls correctly on my wheel. I'll show you, but it just has abbreviations for me. It's abbreviations similar to, so this is all it shows me. FFS, NDP, NFR, I don't know what most of them are, and it definitely doesn't give me these descriptions, so for the time being I keep having to click back there rather than do it on the wheel, but I know what sensitivity is, so I have to go and I can change that, which is one of the very few, one of the downsides of playing in VR, because I can't see the wheel. Sensitivity needs to be straight on, it's not turning as much as a masking attack. Overall, this feels better. Again, I was sure that there was going to be some kind of vibration. It was just ridiculous before. Let's turn this down. Let's go down to 850 on this speed and see what that is. Play around and we'll find our sweet spot there. Unless something is very good idea. I'm usually not a lot. Maybe a fucking. I was actually. It's actually warmed up here, so I can do a accurate testing. First one, I won't be able to bring the car. This is really weird playing on this. What the fuck? This is really weird playing on a screen. Man, I don't know how you guys do it, I'm telling you. VR. Fucking VR, it's just... VR is what is that? It's so good. originally stood. Strangely familiar as my hearings. I know there are good words in there. No, it's just how it feels. It's smooth. Which I guess means that's what I should go for. Smooth.
48.385.
If I skip on the track, still feel what was it? I'm change myself, so I'm gonna go down to 800 on the sensitivity. See how that goes. Still feels like there's a very mechanical vibration. It's not very smooth. It's not really working out. Wheel rotation, and then I guess that the harder you get down, the more sensitive it becomes to your overall turning. Means that it's basically an electric motor, which is really simple, and with the inner circuit being it's connected to the wheel, and the outer circuit copper wires, what sense you have to do mechanical impulses into the wheel. Wow, so I barely had that quick little turn. It definitely wasn't a smooth turn, and I would also assume that the higher my sensitivity level is, the more often that's going to happen. But we're still going to go down. I'm going to go down to 750 and see how that goes. If it just goes always like that, but it's really too much. Okay, so we're gonna go back to like 800 was kind of the sweet spot on that. What is my INT interpolation filter? So other ones had this at 11, which I guess is my starting point. So this is the INT. Yeah. Alright, so let's try that. And I got it on the wheel here, so we'll have to keep going back to that. A little bit of operation, a little bit of water side to side.
got wheel damage.
Oh, damn it, where's my soda? Okay. So what other things could we have? What's dynamic for... Speed sensitive. Alright. Oh, damn, I need my... Alright, sorry. I will be right back. Okay, I mean, look, I walked away. I look at what my fucking wheel's doing. I'm sitting here just in the pit. Anyway, I walked away, and look at what my wheel's doing. I mean, I'm just sitting here in the pits. I don't get it. My stand is solid as can be. It's not that. What is it? I just don't... If it's on linear, not peak. So anyway, I know I'm just wasting time doing this, but I really want to figure this out. And I'm sure I could probably just Google it, which is going to be coming up soon here, in case you guys are wondering. But every time I check it out. You'll see it in real time when I make into a video and race down next to nothing. Oh my god. Okay, let's try that again. Is my wheel? What is going on here? Alright. Let's do 2 clean laps. That's what I'm going to do. 2 clean laps. Crazy. Can't do it. I'm saying we go through the laps, and that's what we're doing. Let's see what goes on the street. Let's see. What's on the off? Smoothness is off. Oh, this is way better. I still feel it less than
You've got wheel damage.
Damn it, Tom. What happened to 2 clean laps? Jeez. It just goes insane. Off and 0 has too much of a mechanical really pushing gears for the crazy vibrations and short straightaways. Let's see how we do. It's just so good it's supposed to be. feel the nice little sausage roll. When I was driving, but it's because of my other emotions going on.
43.682. Flat for you.
Wow, that was bad. Alright, so let's look at some settings again, because I don't know what the fuck they meant. Alright. Yep, that's right, guys. We're doing it. Why is that opening?
not normal.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm doing that.
What's up guys, GG Racing here, and don't throw yet your Fanatec equipment away, because I think some of the issues that you saw earlier can be avoided. So far it seems that there's a chance they're related with the new quick release adapter from Fanatec, and speaking of it, let's start with some positives.
Okay, this guy seems to not like
Honestly, there's not much to add, turning it would break out of the blue. That A and B will disconnect base was assembled and pushed if you're not wheels off. For example, is to the metal effect your base is. Also, final thing about this plastic QR is the noise. On hard sudden to pull the shaft out of the base for this, and also there's no risk involved in doing this procedure. Having said that, do we really need to pay $100 for the Clubsport quick release? Not really. If you're aware of these issues, you'll be able to prevent things like cracking or disconnect.
Anyway, I have that. That's what... Ooh, yeah, there we go. See, he's got the same shit. I think that's... Yes. What is that? Tell me more. Setting dampening to 0 in iRacing. Alright. Alright, let's give this guy some credit. Mr. 21. Tell you what, Mr. 21, let's see. Screw it, let's go ahead. Subscribe. He helped me out. Small creator. Let's see, maybe he wants... Oh, what? How often does he do videos? Let's check him out. Oh, 11 days ago. Alright, looks like he likes his Cadillac. His videos are so much... Oh, super short. Wow, super short videos. But anyway, better than my super long ones with half of it just a bit bullshit. I'm still getting used to the whole thing, so usually I just hit start stream and then let it go forever, even though I'm not paying attention to it. And then I always say, oh, I'll go back and edit them later. I don't. It's not, the YouTube editor and YouTube Studio sucks. It's way easier for me to record them and then cut them up and then post them, rather than try and live stream them and try and cut them up in the video editor, which is what I was planning on originally doing. I'm like, oh, this is great. YouTube's got their own video editor set up. All I really need to do is, shorten clips, cut stuff out. And it wasn't doing any kind of actual editing, but it can't even do that. It's horrible. Or it just takes so long to load. I don't know. You can tell I get irritated with stuff and I'm gonna give up on it. But not giving up on this wheel. I'm gonna figure it out. Okay, so where we go? It said it pretty clear here, so I show the shaking vibration can be fixed by setting dampening to 0 in iRacing. Is that part of the iRacing settings? If so, where would I find it? Oh, right. My dampening is 0. Son of a bitch. Okay, well, my dampening is 0, which fucking my wheel's still doing it, so it doesn't help at all. Okay, natural dampener. Oh, see, I have it at 100%. Let's go down. Off. Natural dampener off. Game dampener strength effect. Well, the game is set at 0, but we'll just go with 0 anyway. So now I have no dampening. My wheel is dry as fuck. It ain't damp. Okay, I don't know. Let's give it a go, see what this does. Shit, yeah, I would love to figure out this whole vibrating thing and getting the actual feel of stuff. Which I'm just going to put it in the time ago. I like to do it so far. So far, it's feeling pretty good. I'm liking it. This one in there. But again, I will take some of that. I want to have feeling good. I want to feel like I need to go 2 hands out. Unnecessarily stupid stuff. Yeah, see, there's no way that I can do that. Well, it's still there. Yeah, I can handle it right now. It's just forward. Just turn it all of them all the way down to 0, so there's no getting by the way. So we're going to put all the way down. They can just figure it out. Check down. We're going to try to still does it. What? Let's see what the other settings are. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that one any better than what it is, unless maybe playing with some other ones. Okay. Fanatec Lab settings explained. So Fanalab, that's the software here that I'm using. Obviously you can see it's got quite a few different settings. Ooh, oh fuck. I don't want to listen to a woman tell me, yeah, race, this is all fuck. But this is from their website. It doesn't really have to do with a girl. I was joking. But it does have, I want somebody's actual response to it, not what Fanatec tells me. But
Fanalab is our latest PC application for a variety of Fanatec hardware with a unique interface allowing detailed fine-tuning of settings and functionality beyond what was previously possible. The home screen or main page is divided into 3 sections. On the far right, you'll see the games which are currently installed on your PC and are supported by the Podium software. You'll need to enable the communication between the software and each game by clicking on the Game Profile tab and selecting these 2 green buttons. Some games need to be running in order to enable the software. You can launch each game directly from the software by clicking on its icon. When returning to the home screen, you can see detected devices at the bottom of the page. If your device does not display correctly, you can choose it with the drop-down menu. On the second tab, you'll find the tuning menu page. On top of this page, you'll have access to 5 presets where tuning menu settings can be changed independent from each other, just like on your wheelbase. The tuning menu settings are divided into 3 groups: the settings of the detected wheelbase, the steering wheel, and the pedals. Mousing over each setting will trigger a pop-up description regarding its function. Each are adjustable by dragging the slider, and every change will be synced in real time and can be noticed on the steering wheel and on the software at the same time. The third tab is the dynamic force feedback settings. This is where you can add effects in addition to the game force feedback. Our goal is to add more of these additional effects over time so you can enhance your experience beyond what is possible through in-game settings. Our first addition is a dynamic damper effect which raises with your car's speed to simulate the gyroscopic force of the wheels affecting the steering. Now you can minimize oscillations without losing feel or response when you need it the most. With the speed thresholds, you can adjust in kilometers per hour the speed at which the dampening starts to take effect. Damper effect will begin to apply damper depending on the angle of your steering wheel. The damper effect strength controls how strong you want the damper effect to be from 0 to 100. For example, you can set the speed threshold to 150 kilometers per hour and the effect range to 30 degrees to solve oscillations down a long straight without sacrificing force feedback through a turn. More of these custom adjustments will come in the future and we're open to any suggestions you may have. With Fanalab, you can set and adjust steering wheel, brake, and throttle vibration by using telemetry data to trigger rumble motors even if a game didn't support it natively. This allows you to set different vibrations for different peripherals. The LED tab lets you customize the LEDs and display of your Fanatec steering wheel with more functions than ever. The telemetry data list refers to data being displayed on the steering wheel. Here you set the priority of the data shown. The data with 0 will be constantly shown but overwritten
so
by
not
the other
supported, that's why they don't
priorities
publish.
as soon as this data comes in. 3 being the least important.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna do a bunch of cool stuff in the future.
Prioritized over it. An X dismisses data from appearing on the steering wheel display. These settings are up to the user's preference and can be set any way you like it. With a wheel which has RGB LEDs like the 4.
Okay,
So let's click on the wheelbase tab. We can see our rotation of the wheel in degrees.
I don't.
So we can, and advanced games as well. You might want to set it to something. So you can switch for natural friction.
Well, I guess
And you can do that to our 5 different presets, which we can use to set up different cars or different sim titles. So you can switch between those profiles directly from the wheel as well. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment too. But
Show
we've
me
got
now.
access now
Show me
to
now.
all of our standard wheel settings, which you would expect to see from Fanatec. So maximum steering angle, overall force feedback strength, force feedback scale, natural damper, natural friction, natural inertia, force feedback interpolation filter, force feedback intensity,
Yep, I
effect
can
strength,
read.
spring effect strength, damper effect strength, and then the mode for our multi-position switches, which
This is
just
almost over.
determines
You're
how
not
the
gonna tell
analog
me
paddles
anything
work on
about
the
them,
back
huh?
of wheels, which have those installed,
Damn.
and then our shock vibration strength as well for vibration motors, should we have a wheel with vibration motors installed.
Okay, that basically didn't help at all.
Stands on the button module endurance as well as on the DD1 and DD2, so the integrated telemetry module. And yeah, hopefully by the end of this video you'll be well equipped to come up with the best possible settings to suit your driving style and get the most enjoyment out of your Fanatec wheelbase. So let's get going. So next up we have natural damper. So NDP or natural damper, and we'll scroll across to that on the screen here as well. Adjust a constant damper which is not influenced by the game. So this is a filter that runs on the wheel itself independently of whatever signals are coming in from your sim. So default is set to 50% to prevent oscillations.
Wait,
Oscillations
what does that
is
mean?
that
So
weird
it-
behavior you sometimes get when you're driving.
Dampener effects that aren't coming in from the game, so where does it get them from? Why am I not computing what dampener is? It controls how the wheel will react when it's moving. Usually used as a dynamic friction. You can use it while the wheel gets back to its center. Okay. It reduces the sharpness of the force feedback. An extreme example, let's say you slam into a wall with the telemetry showing a 10 Newton meter rotation to the left for 0.2 seconds is required to simulate that. With no damper, it will jump immediately or as quick as it mechanically can to 10 meters of force for the full 0.2 seconds. With some dampener enabled, so instead of immediately jumping to 10, it will slowly increase force feedback to the peak of 10 over that 2 seconds. So maybe a 5 second. If it's at 2 Newton meters, 0.1, it's at 5, 0.15 is at 7. Okay, I understand it. The higher the... Son of a bitch, my phone just died. Damn. My battery's kind of going to shit. It used to easily last the whole day, although it is 11 o'clock. Anyway, kind of got lost there. Okay, so I get it. It's smooth stuff. It lets it smoothly get in, like an editing. Instead of like a sharp peak, it'll smoothly go into it. You can see me in the mirror. So it smooths it out rather than being a sharp. Okay, I get that. Okay. Sorry, am I supposed to be reading these out loud? I was reading them in my head. Because that really didn't help you guys. Alright, let's watch force feedback basics. Maybe I don't fully understand.
Okay, so I've got a little page up here in front of us that explains some basics about force feedback. So we'll read through it and then I'll clarify some of the points as we go. So force feedback effects are generated by motors mounted in the base of a joystick or driving wheel. Pretty obvious there. Through Microsoft's direct input interface, devices are capable to generate those kind of push or resistance in an input device. So that is very poorly written. But basically what that's trying to say is that the direct input application programming interface, or API, is what's used by sim titles to translate information inside the game through to what you actually feel through your hands on the steering wheel. So there's a couple of things that are involved in that process. First, the application or the sim title actually has to create the force feedback information. That can be done either through canned effects, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a moment, or physics-based or physics-generated effects. And then that is outputted through the application programming interface called direct input, which is what we just mentioned before. Then that information is interpreted by the drivers and software that you install for your particular wheelbase. The wheelbase then receives that information and decodes
I like this headset more.
into signals that
It was
can be
charging.
outputted to the motor of the wheelbase, and then the motor responds to those signals, and that's what you feel through the wheel. So
Oh, you guys don't hear it now, though, huh?
Wheelbase, there's some magic that goes on there with pulleys and cogs and things like that. In the case of a direct drive wheel, basically what you feel is exactly what the motor is generating. So that is the reason why direct drive wheelbases can feel a little bit more grainy than you might be used to with a cog-driven wheelbase, simply because there's a lot more filtering and there's a lot more interpolation, and that's a word.
There we go. I had to change the settings in my OBS.
There's a lot more of those sorts of things that need to go on to filter the signal to get it to feel nice and smooth, because you don't have the benefit of a belt or cogs to kind of create a dampening effect and I guess filter those signals out mechanically. So it has to happen through software and drivers and firmware and things like that. So back to the document here, every particular effect, for instance the engine of a wheeled car, needs to be created separately for every device, and those are called effects. The push or the resistance is called force. So important distinction there. Effects are things like when you run over a ripple strip, the texture of a road, so to speak, and then forces are the wheel fighting against you as you go over bumps, or through cornering forces, sustained cornering, things like that. So those are two important different types of things that the wheelbase is responsible for: the effects or the texture, and then the actual force of the wheel fighting against you, or the tires, and the car fighting against you as you drive. So effects can be categorized into the following categories: a constant force. There's a constant force in a single direction. So say, for example, the wheel turning in one direction and you're kind of fighting against that as you go. A ramping force, or a force that increases or decreases in magnitude. So this could be, you know, as you're coming out of the corner, you know, the cornering force or the constant force slowly reduces.
So I just changed it to miles per hour so I can understand it.
Turning, or, you know, you might be going
He's
over
still
a bump,
talking.
rubbing against another car. Something that is varying in a scale, so to.
Okay, it's not really helping me. Fanatec software does a bunch of things. Okay, force feedback strength. Maybe you'll talk about clipping. I want to know.
So obviously the only thing that influences this externally is the level of force feedback that you set, or the gain level that you set inside the sim itself. Now I see a lot of people saying that you should set your
This computer's
gain force
fucking
feedback
awesome.
level to 100% and then adjust the level on the drivers to suit your preferred level of strength. Now I don't always agree with that. Generally it works with cog-driven and belt-driven wheelbases. On direct drive wheelbases you can start to run into some software clipping, and basically what's happening is it's similar. Think of if you're using a preamp on a headphone system or something like that. So you've got an iPod or an iPhone or whatever device plugged into a preamp and then going to your headphones. So if you turn the volume on your phone all the way up, then it's already sometimes pushing the limits of. So what happens then is it goes in just creating mud, creating a amplification of a signal that is already dirty. So generally what I like to do with direct drive wheelbases is set my force feedback strength in the game to around sort of 60 to 85%, something like that, and then fine tune my overall force feedback strength in the drivers to suit my overall strength that I actually want to feel. And then what I do is I adjust my force feedback strength in the drivers to the maximum amount of force that I ever want to feel. So under, you know, a crashing scenario, hitting a wall, hitting another car, something like that. But the most important thing to avoid here is clipping. And clipping is basically just as simple as soon as you amplify the signal to the point where it's no longer a clean sine wave, it starts to become a square wave. What's happening is the signal is just distorting, exactly the same as if you turn your headphones up too far and you start to lose the detail in the sound, you begin to lose the detail in the force feedback. Exactly the same thing. And then next up we have this little guy here.
How do I know?
Called linearity. So the tooltip here, I encourage you to read these.
I understand that about clipping, right? You know, so if you have, for say my wheel's currently at the 5 Newton meters. I haven't hooked up the boost kit to make it at 8, so let's just take it 5. So if I get a signal that is telling it to go to 6 Newton meters, it's gonna only go to 5, obviously, because it's gonna clip off that extra 1%. So I'm not getting the true full feeling of it. I get that. I understand that. I don't know how to find out. Is it clipping?
These tooltips as you go, because they pretty much explain exactly what I'm explaining, just in more generic terms. So linearity off, which is the default setting, allows maximum peak force. Due to the nature of holding and peak forces, this can cause non-linearity during long sustained high holding forces like cornering. So on reduces overall force feedback force to a level which generates linear behavior between peaks and holding forces. Now, we talked about this a little bit the other day when I did my DD1 versus DD2 review, and I was talking about dynamic range. So I would encourage you to check that video out. I've got a link in the description below to this.
Okay, well, I will, but
that I'm referring to here. But basically what we want to have is as linear a response throughout the entire dynamic range of the wheelbase. So the dynamic range of a DD1, for
Your oil
example,
temp is getting high.
15 Newton meters, so from 0 to 15 Newton meters for holding, and then from 0 to...
Did you guys hear that? My oil temp is getting high. Guess I should probably do something about that, huh? Oh, it's nighttime. Oh, sweet. This feels so weird driving without gloves. Turn down the volume. I mean, it's still. Damn it, Tom. You really fucked that up. Anyway, I was able to take one hand
Got
off
wheel
and it
damage.
started going crazy. Obviously, that fucking ruined everything right there, but...
20 newton meters for peak. DD2 by comparison is 20 newton meters for holding, 25 newton meters for peak. So without going into too heavy technical detail, when we turn the linearity on, what it's doing is it's scaling everything down so that we have a nice linear response throughout all the different types of effects. So everything from, you know, minor details in road surface or textures in the road to running over ripple strips, all the way through to, you know, banging into other cars and walls, sustained cornering and stuff like that. So with a direct drive wheelbase, generally I find it's best to leave this turned on because there's enough overall strength there anyway, and you want to have a nicely sort of, you know, balanced scale of force feedback throughout the entire dynamic range. When you're driving with a belt-driven wheelbase or something like that, you've got less dynamic range available.
Wait, what does he want me to leave on? Are we still talking about...
Clubsport wheelbase 2.5. That's about 7.5 to 8 newton meters of dynamic range. Compare that to a DD1.
Linear. He was talking about linear, right? He always wants the linear turned on.
Almost a third, just under a third for peak.
So what we're talking about?
By comparison is 20 newton meters for holding, 25 newton meters for peak. So without going into too heavy technical detail,
I think that's what he's saying.
more generic terms. So linearity off, which is the default setting, allows maximum peak force. Due to the nature of holding and peak forces, this can cause non-linearity during long sustained high holding forces like cornering. So on reduces overall force feedback force to a level which generates linear behavior between peaks and holding forces. Now, we talked about this a little bit the other day when I did my
he
DD1
leaves it
versus
on.
DD2 review, and I was talking about dynamic range. So I would encourage you to check basically so from on, because there's enough overall strength there anyway, and you want to have a nicely sort of, you know, balanced scale.
Nice and smooth, nice and smooth. Kids, look away.
Available to be half to 8 newton meters of dynamic range. Compare that to a DD1, half the dynamic range, you know, for constant force, and you know, almost a third, just under a third for peak force. So you have less dynamic range to play with, so therefore you turn off linearity, so you get those really strong bumps and grinds and stuff like that, but you don't lose out on the details. So what it's basically doing with linearity off is it's amplifying those.
Got it. So say if I had my...
so that you're feeling those a little bit more.
If I had my G29 still, I would want peak on, so I do get those big ones. But because, again, mine is still only at 5, but I'm going to be having the 8. I have a lot more dynamic range there, like he was saying. So linear, we want turned on, because that's what I got out of it. If you got something different, comment.
And then effectively squashing down those higher amplitude signals so that you still feel strong detail in the lower stuff, but then you're also, you know, not clipping in the higher stuff. So yeah, basically cog-driven, belt-driven wheelbases leave linearity turned off. For direct drive wheelbases, generally I would recommend having that turned on. So next up we have natural damper. So NDP or natural damper, we'll scroll across to that on the screen.
There we go. This is what I want to hear.
Just a constant damper which is not influenced by the game. So this is a filter that runs on the wheel itself independently of whatever signals are coming in from your sim. So default is set to 50% to prevent oscillations. And oscillations is that weird behavior you sometimes get when you're driving down a straight, you let go of the wheel and the wheel starts kind of going from side to side like crazy.
Yeah,
so adding
yeah.
a bit of damper can actually cancel that out. I generally find adjusting the force feedback intensity and the interpolation setting is the best way to deal with that first, because that's you know, that gets rid of the problem without sort of introducing other effects or other sort of
interpolation, that's turned off
later on. But generally for damper, I have this set to around sort of 20 to 50% depending on the game. Now you do have a damper setting inside the game itself as well. So generally, well, for most games anyway. So generally speaking, I like to try, and I keep on saying generally speaking, I apologise for that. Generally speaking, I like to try and set the damper
See how that is.
first and leave this as low as I possibly
Guys,
can.
feel
And
so
only if
weird
I'm
about
finding
this.
I'm not able to achieve the feeling that I want, then I'll go and start adjusting it in the driver software. So this is generally going to be pretty low for me. We'll set it off now for the purpose of...
I ordered some new gloves. They're coming, but honestly, I love my bike gloves here. I like having my fingers out. It's just, not just for my phone, but for all the buttons.
So again, this is running independently of the game itself, or the data that's coming out of the game. And And you'll find that most sims these days...
I can't really listen to both, so I should pause that while I try my 20% linearity in the Fanatec settings, but I'm still at 0 in iRacing. God, I hate that turn. We're just testing.
Slow down. You got a penalty for cutting
No.
the course.
We're feeling good so far. A little straightaway here. Let's get up here. Okay, yeah. But it's not bad. It's not bad. There we go. Here's the test. A big straightaway. Doing pretty good. I'm gonna feel a little wobble, but that's, again, expected. I'm kind of loosening my grip at all, just kind of goes crazy. It's still better than it was before. It had it better. But I feel like there's more room to play with there. You know, so. Why am I doing this here? Why don't I just fucking do it? Well, it says my damper's turned off. Oh, it's my natural dampener. My DPR is off. I want NDP. 20. Let's go to 35. Everything was already turned off in the game. I didn't really change anything. I'm basically redoing what I already did earlier. So I've never had it set up. That'll be fine. Yes, I'm still without that. Getting it. I let go of the and just go crazy. I'm tracking so bad. I'm trying to pay attention to the wheel and talk to you guys, so please bear with my head. Definitely not trying to change the way. Yeah, okay on this. Definitely got to some shape when I brake, which is what I would think is my rotor's being roped. Or I was straight away with my alignment being roped. Well, I think that's the case, so let's see what I got. I hear it, so it looks straight up. I don't know how to hold it with one hand. I guess I can. Hey, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna fuck with that at all anymore. Let's just say it's good.
Is at least generate this through effects themselves. So there's weight that is added to the wheel naturally when you're playing a game without having to add anything additionally here. So for most sims, I'm able to leave this at 0.
Damn it.
Themselves. So and you'll find that this is running independently of fighting against you without any other forces in effect. So again, this is running independently of the game itself, or the data that's coming out of the game. And you'll find that most sims these days, at least, generate
but he's on the friction. He's talking about dampener, though, right?
And this is generally going to be pretty low for me. We'll set it off now for the purpose of what we're doing here. And then we move across to natural friction. So natural friction is the friction or the force of the wheel fighting against you without any other forces in effect. So again, this is running independently of the game itself, or the data that's coming out of the game. And you'll find that most sims these days, at least, generate this through effects themselves. So there's weight that is added to the wheel naturally when you're playing a game without having to add anything additionally here. So for most sims, I'm able to leave this at 0. If I find the steering feels a little bit too light, so some cars, for example, that have really powerful power steering, sometimes the wheel feels a little bit toy-like and a little bit too loose, and in those instances I'll add a little bit of natural friction just to make it feel a little bit stiffer. So you can see here it's spinning really easily. If I crank that up to 100%, suddenly it's quite stiff and hard to turn. You can imagine,
I like it just how it is.
Feels, that sort of simulate low down. You're wanting to be lower, and I know down pretty low, so they're only feeling the things they need to feel, not sort of having to fight against the car. That's the reason they do that, because they're not wanting to make it any harder than it has to be. They're just wanting to feel the details that they need to feel to be able to drive quickly. So natural friction I generally keep at 0 unless I'm driving a car that is particularly
natural inertia. See, I have my natural inertia turned off.
I don't think
He's got his way up.
20% on any wheelbase that I've ever used. That's including Fanatec, Logitech, Simicube, you name it. I've never really needed to go higher than that. So next we move on to natural inertia. So natural inertia simulates the additional weight of the steering axis. Higher values will make the wheel feel heavier than it is. This can help making natural friction feel a little bit less sticky. Inertia can hinder oscillations from starting, but will make already happening oscillations worse. So too high settings can slow down reaction and reduce feel. So very similar to what we were just discussing with friction.
Okay, let's see how this feels. I'm trying to feel how it feels without the light in my hand. I want to be just white knuckling it the whole time. I want to feel everything. I want it to all be there, but I want it to just like it's going crazy. Okay, so far we're feeling pretty good here. This is good. I know this. Yes, I'm not good, but still, this is unheard of. But how the fuck I've been doing this. Unheard of for the last so now that we know that though, let's play around with it a little more. See what natural inertia is like at 50. So we just double it. Up to the big straight line here. I'm good at 25. See how it feels at 50. I like to do big jumps up so I can really see the extreme difference. Just one hit. Really feel. You see, we're doing alright here. Now the question is, can I fucking drive? But we only
Slow
did some
down.
of that.
You
So
got a
anyway,
penalty for cutting the course.
tried 25, we tried 50. Let's try 100. Yeah, I want to know. How do I find out about clipping? Right? Or is it something I need to figure out? Or is there somewhere in the software that can tell me things when you clip? I'm not sure if I can feel it. I'll tell you something, if it feels the same, I'm gonna go back to 25. So one-handed, you can see how the shaking is. It's not bad. I'm not sure if it's any better than 25. We're gonna go back to that, so I can move it in the nose, so I can really other stuff, but I think this feels pretty damn good then. So let's go back to 25 on that. So we just threw over 100, jumped way back to 25, which is a 75 point change. I should be able to feel the difference. Not sure what I'm feeling for. It's incredibly hard to explain, so I'm sorry if this isn't helping you very much, but giving you the best info I can in real time on how this is. I'm telling you, for whatever reason, 25, I can't really explain why, 25 feels even better than the 100. I think it's still not straight overs. It's obviously a really good at that high straight speed, which I'm having trouble with. Ooh! Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, you saw that. You know what I mean, Here we go. Big test. You excited? I'm excited. Here we go. What's gonna happen? I don't know. One-handed. Looking pretty good so far. Looking pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Maybe at 100 I had a little less, but not notably. I like to know the numbers nice and low, right? So I don't want excess of anything, whether it's dulling sensors or increasing them. I want to leave room for plenty of stuff. So anyway, let's go back to my video.
So if we turn that all the way down and then turn the wheel, you can see it's spinning freely there, but that is literally just the inertia of the weight of the wheel itself and the shaft spinning in the assembly. That doesn't feel artificial at all, that's just the natural weight. If we crank that up then to 100%, you can see now I give the wheel a tiny little nudge and it almost feels like a perpetual motion engine. It just keeps on spinning pretty much forever. So it does feel quite nice.
Mine's connected to a car with tires, so this is doing exactly what I would expect. Oh, but what does it do if I turn it to 100? Doing just
nice
that.
because it allows the wheel to sort of slip through your hands. But this cranking this up is going to dampen the textures and the response of the car in other ways. So I can't think of a scenario where you would ever want to have this cranked up above maybe 50% if you really want to feel the weight of a car underneath you. But again, because a lot of sims do take care of this themselves, you generally don't need to go much higher than, I generally keep it around about 10, maybe 20%. Very rarely go any higher than that unless I'm driving something really obscure. So next we go to force feedback interpolation. Now, this is a filter that was added more recently. And this was a real game changer. I mentioned this when I did my review of the DD2 back about 6 months ago. And this brought the DD wheelbases from Fanatec a lot closer to the feeling of the SimCube wheelbases.
A lot of shaking on that. I don't know if you noticed, when I had it up to 100, it didn't shake at all. I like the end when it kind of comes around and they'll wobble. But 25 is a lot better.
You can imagine the force feedback that's coming out of a sim is limited. I did my review of the DD2 back about 6 months, and this was interpolation. Now, this is a filter that was added more recently, and this was a real game changer. I mentioned this when I did my review of the DD2 back about 6 months ago, and this brought the DD wheelbases from Fanatec a lot closer to
feedback
the feeling
interpolation.
of the
I have mine off.
SimCube 2s, I should say, in my opinion. So basically, what
So I have my force feedback interpolation off. He has his
as they come out of the sim title itself.
interpolation
So you can imagine the force feedback that's coming out of a sim is limited to a certain refresh rate, just like the signal that's coming out of a graphics card is limited
That's right,
to a
I
certain
remember
refresh
now.
rate for your
This is the
screens.
one that was at
So say,
default
for
at
example, in the case
11.
of iRacing, we have a force feedback refresh rate of 60 hertz, whereas we might
go with
have
him.
a refresh rate on our monitor of 240
But-
hertz. So basically what's happening in that instance is we're getting 4 times the amount is limited to a certain refresh rate for your screens. So say like the signal feedback that's coming out of a sim as they come out of the sim title itself. So you can imagine the data between packets of data. So basically what this is doing is this is interpolating data between packets of data as they come out of the sim title itself. So you can imagine the force feedback that's coming out of a sim is limited to a certain refresh rate, just like the signal that's coming out of a graphics card is limited to a certain refresh rate for your screens.
Okay, so it's how fast it's, well, I guess, interpreting the information that it's getting. Why would you ever want it lower? Wouldn't you want it to interpret the settings as quick as possible to give you the correct feedback? At least that's the way I'm kind of reading it, which doesn't seem right, because if that was the case, you would want it turned all the way up. Why would you want to slow the speed in which the wheel interprets the information it's getting? I don't know.
So say for example in the case of iRacing we have a force feedback refresh rate of 60 hertz, whereas we might have a refresh rate on our monitor of 240 hertz. So basically what's happening in that instance is we're getting 4 times the amount of frames on the screen to the amount of packets of data that we're actually getting for our force feedback. So effectively our screen is refreshing 4 times more than our force feedback does, and that can lend itself to a slightly robotic feel through the steering wheel, because obviously it's, you know, you've got 4 frames before a new packet of data comes in and then it adjusts, and then you've got 4 more frames, adjust, 4 more frames, adjust. Now it's happening incredibly fast, so you don't really interpret it in terms of, you know, being jerky, so to speak, but it can kind of give it that slight robotic feeling. So what the interpolation filter does is it interpolates or creates simulated packets of data in between the real packets of data. So it's saying, okay, I've got a force feedback strength of say 10 newton meters, and then the next frame is say 20 newton meters. So it sort of goes, all right, well, I know that somewhere in between the two is going to be about 15 newton meters, so I'll simulate that, and that creates a more granular or a more smooth movement through that data. So this setting is going to vary greatly depending on the sim title that you're playing. In the case of iRacing, I generally find a setting of around about 8 feels pretty good to me, because obviously iRacing, as I just said, has a lower refresh rate for force feedback to begin with. If you compare, say, Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example, I think that's 344 hertz, something like that. So much more data coming out of the sim, much less need for an interpolation filter to begin with. So ACC, I crank this all the way down to 0, and it feels just as smooth as iRacing does. Now, again, obviously, if you have the data available out of the sim, you want to use it. Obviously, real data is always going to be better than interpolated or simulated data. So in the case of, you know, instances where you have that data available, crank the interpolation filter all the way down, or just crank it down to the point where it feels nice and smooth, because obviously the higher you put it, the more kind of dampened and filtered things are going to feel overall. It starts to, you know, it gets rid of the robotic feeling, but it does remove a little bit of the detail that you feel in the force feedback. So again, it's a personal preference thing, as is everything here.
Sorry, I'm being quiet. I'm just trying to listen.
So next up we have...
what I'm kind of getting, although I don't understand why you wouldn't want it to always be. Sorry. So it is interpreting the data that comes in, and if the game is not sending the data quick enough, The software will kind of interpret and make ones up in between there. However, like he said, for whatever reason, the real data is always better. So if the game is giving it to you fast enough, you can turn the interpretation all the way down. If the game's not giving it to you fast enough, you can turn it all the way up. I guess what would happen is if you have it turned all the way up and it's interpreting data that somehow runs over what the game is getting you, then that can become an issue because the game's giving you better information than the interpret is giving you. I don't really know. I guess the only way to figure that out though is actually by testing it, and I find that that's going to be something very difficult. You would have to have a lot of hours and a lot of time and a lot of feel to know what you're feeling, if you're feeling basically fake data or you're feeling real data. So I'm just going to copy what he has.
Force effect intensity. Now, this setting a lot of people will be familiar with because they're often told to turn it down if they're having problems with oscillation and vibrations and loud metallic noises coming from the wheelbase. But most people don't understand what it actually does beyond this. So this is a filter or an amplifier, so to speak, a preamp for the force effects that are coming out of the direct inputs driver or the direct inputs application programming interface directly. So independent of the force feedback or the the forces fighting against you. So effects like rumble strips, road textures and so forth are going to be affected by this independently of the overall forces. That is assuming that the game that you're playing uses canned effects that are actually using those 4 things that we talked about earlier in the videos. So for this setting, I normally leave it set at 100, and with all the other filters that we have in place, it feels pretty good. But if you're finding that bumps in the road just feel too strong compared to the corner.
Oh, he's going to talk about this for a long time.
A lot of people are tricked into, bumps feel too heavy, so they end up turning down their overall force feedback strength, but then the cornering forces don't feel strong enough. So it's sort of a bit of a balance between this setting and the overall force feedback strength. You want to have your force feedback strength high enough that the cornering forces feel good, but then the FEI setting low enough that the bumps in the road, the ripple strips and the textures and things like that don't feel too strong. So it's a balancing act between the two. And as I said,
sounds so much better.
I'm able to leave this at about 100. Some instances
I can't quickly get back into the game, unfortunately.
Once you go down below,
I'd rather just watch this right now, and I really need to figure this stuff out.
And just you kind of you lose that detail and that fidelity that you really want, particularly with a direct drive wheelbase. So generally, I would recommend don't go lower than about 50%. Try to leave it at 100% unless you really need to adjust it. But always adjust this before you adjust your overall force feedback strength. If you're finding that it's just bumps and textures that are too strong.
I can help. Okay, I gotta go. Help out in the kitchen
So
really quick. I'll be
game
right
force
back. In the
effect
meantime,
strength,
I'm
or
gonna
FOR. So
I'm gonna keep my
FOR
headset on and keep
adjusts
listening to
strength
this.
force effects coming from the game. Default is 100%. So games
Obviously, he
use
explains
effect
it
to control
not
most
only better
force
than I
feedback.
can,
Some
but
games only
I'm
use
learning
force effects.
too.
This is what we will
Should probably shut up and listen, huh?
don't go lower than about 50%. Try to leave it at 100% unless you really need to adjust it. But always adjust this before you adjust your overall force feedback strength if you're finding that it's just bumps and textures that are too strong and you don't want to reduce.
Always adjust this instead.
Leave this at about 100. Some instances I end up turning it down to maybe bumps in the road just feel too strong compared to the cornering forces and stuff like that. A lot of people are tricked into, bumps feel too heavy, so they end up turning down their overall force feedback strength, but then the cornering forces don't feel strong enough. So it's sort of a bit of a balance between this setting and the overall force feedback strength. You want to have your force feedback strength high enough that the cornering forces feel good, but then the FEI setting low enough that the bumps in the road, the ripple strips and the textures and things like that don't feel too strong. So it's a balancing act between the two. And as I said, I generally find I'm able to leave this at about 100. Some instances I end up turning it down to maybe as low as 50. Once you go down below about 50, it starts to feel really muted, really dampened, and just, you lose that detail and that fidelity that you really want, particularly with a direct drive wheelbase. So generally I would recommend don't go lower than about 50%. Try to leave it at 100% unless you really need to adjust it. But always adjust this before you adjust your overall force feedback strength if you're finding that it's just bumps and textures that are too strong and you don't want to reduce your overall cornering strength. So moving on now to game force effect strength, or FOR. So FOR adjusts the strength of force effects coming from the game. Default is 100%. So games use this effect to control most of the force feedback. Some games only use force effects. And this is what we were talking about earlier with those 4 different types of effects that come out of the direct inputs API. So for games that use canned effects in particular, this is going to be very useful. So if you're finding that those effects are too strong, again, you can use this as a filter for just those things. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So 100%, as it says here, will use the maximum amount of torque selected by the overall strength, and 50% will only use half of the torque selected by the overall force feedback strength. So it's kind of like a sub filter that operates only on that particular, on those particular 4 inputs from the game itself, as opposed to an overall overarching master volume, so to speak, that we have here with our overall force feedback strength. So then we have the more basic settings underneath that. So SPR, we go across here, is our spring effect. That is the centering spring force, or how strongly, is that the right word? Strongly? How intensely the wheel is trying to force itself back to the center position, how hard you have to fight against it. Now, again, with this setting, most sim titles have their own force, have their own spring effects built into them. So you generally don't have to touch this setting. I usually just leave it at 100%, and that allows whatever's coming out of the game to just do its thing. If you find that you need to boost it for any reason, you can crank it up. If it's too strong, you can crank it down. But generally, you're able to adjust this in the game itself, so there's not really any need to adjust this from 100%. And same deal again here with damper as well. This is a sub filter for adjusting the damper signal as it comes out of the sim title. So again, generally you'll want to adjust this in the sim first, on this filter second, and then you can adjust your overall natural damper to, fine tune to your taste. So yeah, really, again, I don't really find any need to adjust this really ever. I find that between the natural damper
All right, yeah, sorry. I felt wrong about having that play while I wasn't even here. I mean, oh, geez, I left my gloves out there. Damn it. I'm sorry, I'm a mess. I'll be right back. Oh, yeah, that was quick. They were just sitting right over there. So let's look at a different one. So I was just listening to something on my phone. Oh, yes, please. I'll take some more of that.
Ask me certain questions about, just getting it set up, getting it going, what do we need to do,
widescreen, I like it,
and what are the best options for it. And so I figured I would just do a quick video on just walking through the interface, especially the most recent. Simply just select the games here, so you hear it here because it's much bigger, it's a better visual. So, and
see if his set at 900, so I had mine there. Overall strength, I can't remember if he said what he's using. So maybe I have, well, no, because I only have the 5 Newton meter. I only have it turned up too much. All right, so he has his natural dampener at 25. The fuck, did my phone just restart? Jeez, I can't get anything. What was it updating? Oh, jeez, my phone's updating. Okay. So 25, that's what I have. He has natural friction and natural inertia. So I have my natural inertia turned up. That's right, but I liked that, right? We did 25, we did 50, we did 100. I liked it at 25, so I'm just going to keep it there. Dampener at 35, can't remember now. Games at 0. I wonder if I turn that down now with my inertia turned up. I gotta play around with that.
And this will adjust based on the type of wheel you have. So because I have a DD wheel, I have different features there, like the interpolation, the inertia, and so on. Because I have my button module endurance on there, I have the advanced paddle module on as well. So I have different settings there. So it'll adjust based on the wheel or the hub that you actually have running. All right, so if we go over to the dynamic force feedback. Now, dynamic force feedback is really great because this allows you to really customize that dynamic force feedback in game. So one thing is really important is you're going to use one or the other. Don't want to be running both of them at the same time. It would be contradictory. So if, for example, you're in Assetto Corsa Competizione or ACC and you're using the dynamic damper in game, then make sure this is off. If you're using the dynamic damper in here, then make sure it's off in the game. So don't run both of them at the same time.
Copy.
What I like about the dynamic damping in Fanalab is that I can actually customize it to exactly the threshold of the minimal speed, the maximum speed, the range, and the strength that I want to have that take effect. So versus what is in game and what is here, this allows you to personalize it a lot more. And obviously you have the reverse dynamic damping. Now in some games like Automobilista 2, it has a dynamic damping that is adjustable per car. So and basically it auto detects and it does it itself. So I prefer to use the Automobilista 2 dynamic damping in the game, which is a new setting that was just added, I think probably 2 updates ago. And so
damn, I wish they made all this so much easier. Listening to what he says, I feel like if I talk, I'm just going to ruin it.
In the vibration menu, this will depend on
okay, I don't care about this.
you're using. Motor, so in here, now brakes.
Yep. Don't care about any of that.
I can select whatever the Formula wheels, including the Formula Wheel 22 information, throttle. Now you have suspension, travel, vibration, traction control.
Yeah, don't care about that. I don't care about LED lights.
Especially now, this to ATM page that you want. For example, I usually like to have it on the traction control settings. If I'm in ACC or something like that, I'll have it on traction control and ABS settings. So that's my priority. And so you see here, if I set this as my favorite, no matter what,
I don't even have that.
If it goes to this page or to this page, it'll always default back to this page. So this would be my main ITM screen. So here, if you see these little icons on the side, these are the auto switch. So what happens here is if I have that selected,
lights, don't care about lights. I'm doing VR, can't even see it anyway.
it's going to always default to my page 3, but as soon as a lap change happens or as soon as a position change happens, it's going to go to this page,
Alright,
show
sweet.
me that, and then after a few seconds, it's going to drop back. And now this is where you adjust how long you want that to show. So for example, if I'm on lap or position and I want to say 10 seconds, which Formula wheels and the button. So let's see here, let's take for example iRacing. In iRacing, again, there's no setup needed, and then to the Rev LED hardware, make sure external display is unchecked. Okay, so let's go to Kartcraft. So if I go into Kartcraft and I hit enable telemetry, here it's going to tell me exactly what I need to do in game to get this to start communicating, which is just making sure the UDP output is set to port on and port is 5000. Now, if I go into enable the hardware, there's no setup needed. So every game is different and it'll just tell you what you need to do within the game. Now, let's go back here for a second. What has been added to this is the recommended force feedback settings. So what this is going to do, if you click this, it'll take you to the Fanatec website for this game for these settings, recommended settings. You do have this Fanatec settings in here already, so it is loaded already. And if you want to just run these settings, it won't adjust anything else. It'll just basically run the settings for you. You can start there as a baseline and then start customizing your force feedback. As I said, I mean, Fanalab is such a great tool for anybody who's got, Fanatec gear, whether it's a CSL, a CSW, or a DD wheel, pedals. It really allows you a lot of customization and a lot of freedom to do what you want with, settings.
I
So you
believe
can see
this
here
is
I have
mine.
settings for every car, not every car in the game, but ones that I run.
Right. Yep. Done with that. Okay, so I believe this is mine, the Clubsport Wheel Base V2. Is that right? I'm at the F1 V2. Okay, well, anyway. In-game settings. Wheel range, automatically determined. Use linear mode. Unchecked, so don't use linear mode. Reduce for, yes, strength 8.5. This is a slider above. If it is showing max, you can click text to switch to strength value. This suggests starting value, but it is highly dependent on the car selected. Therefore, it is recommended to make your own adjustments to this value for every car. Checking the box. Use custom controls for this car while paying attention to the clipping meter described above. What? The settings below are considered to be a reasonable baseline value for iRacing. They might not suit all tastes and driving styles, but they are a good starting point. Bear in mind that iRacing uses dynamic physics engine covering a broad range of cars, tracks, meaning that these settings might not be optimal for every driving scenario. The values below refer to the standard iRacing force feedback settings. IRFFB is an interesting alternative that can add more detail at the expense of a small increase in latency. For more information can be found at What is this? IRFB was knocked together, okay, whatever, to experiment with the 360 hertz steering wheel torque data made available in telemetry. It was discussed at length in the 360 hertz telemetry thread. Okay, we'll skip that. The 360 hertz data provides significantly smoother signal to the wheel and contains data that is absent in the standard 60 hertz. Oh, okay, it's a lot more. iRacing force feedback. The only drawback is that it actually delivered via telemetry at 60 hertz. We get 6 samples every tick, so it's only coming in at 60, but it basically upgrades it ups it to that by timesing it by 6, right? Because 6 times 6, 36. Okay, yeah. A short time after the standard force feedback is updated, and therefore an unavoidable latency of around 29 milliseconds is referred to the standard, well, whatever. As an alternative, RFB can read, process, and feed the standard to the wheel at the 60 hertz, blah, blah, blah. Provides much smoother, more accurate. A new version is available in a release section of the group up page. It contains new. Well, we're getting this. Basically, it's going to make it better. Damn it. I always hate these things. And how do I just download it? Like, which one do I guess this, because it says installer, or do I do this also? Oh, readme, there we go. Let's start with that. Yeah. Okay, it says exactly. Okay, well, how do I install it? I know, but what do I... Maybe I need to sign in. I'm sure I gotta have a... What? I find it hard to believe I don't have an email account already, but yeah, or already taken. But I use the same stupid simple password for all these things. That's why. Hmm? Okay, I'm signed in, but there's still no pop-up for just download. How do I know which one to download? Do I download all of them? I don't get this. God, please somebody fucking comment on how to do this. How do I... Well, there we go. Oh, Google knows how to do everything. Google's so awesome. I mean, it doesn't show me how to install it or anything, but... I already know this. Right. I mean, yes, I see, but how the fuck do I just install it? Oh, jeez. I don't know, well, at least you guys are learning with me. I mean, I assume you're following along and reading. So, yeah, hopefully this video helps somebody out. Okay, I already know what it does. How does it? Sorry, am I supposed to be reading this out loud? I mean, you guys know what I read. Installing IR force feedback is actually pretty simple. Yeah. Okay. After following the link to GitHub, you simply download the latest IR FFP exe file and open it. When you're running iRacing, it's then about selecting your wheel, which can be done under the force feedback device option, as well as setting up the device force feedback you're using as well to each separate parameters you wish to adjust. These include similar settings to what you find in iRacing itself, the minimum and maximum forces through the wheel, as well as other features unique to IRFFB. From there, it's a matter of tweaking it, it to match your hardware as well as your own preferences. You can set the force feedback to 360 or 60, with the latter being restricted in terms of full angle of rotation available. Rotation? What? So that makes sense. While 360 provides the most accurate data, it does it at slight delay compared to running at 60. The delay itself is less than 0. Never gonna feel that. So it's really up to you if you'd rather have a more instant response or a more detailed one. I want detailed. There are also other various quality of life features that you can either enable or disable, such as making settings that are unique to you. Why should I use it? Blah, blah. All right, so he makes it sound so fucking simple. So, all right, IRFFB. The only EX. I mean, you'd think it'd be under the installer, but the EXE. I saw that somewhere. Oh, maybe it was in the zip file. I wonder if it was in the zip. No, that was .del. Where's my EXE? Downloaded the whole fucking thing. Why is it? I don't see a .exe. Was there on here? Cause I could have swore I downloaded all of it. Yeah, no .exe. Yeah, see, no .exe. So what the fuck? What a... Wait, because is it that I need to install something first? I wonder if I unzip this. Whoops. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch a freaking movie here in a second. watch a movie, like a video clip. This is not helping me or giving me anything here. Damn it.
IRFFB in 2022. If you're using iRacing, you need this. It's a game changer, trust me. Here I'll show you. VJoy, link is in the description. Once FB, like VJoy, link is in the description. Once here, click on irffb.exe. Before
Whoa, yeah, see. This is where it took me, and it's not there. Oh, what's this? Oh, well, look at that. Look at that. So, did I even need what I just downloaded? Huh. Okie dokie. Awesome.
opening the file, it's probably best to drag it into a local easy act. You then have and I use device, which in my case is going to be the belt-driven V2.5 Clubsport Wheel Base from Fanatec. For our force feedback type, because we downloaded VJoy and we want that minimized latency, we want to select 60Hz direct filtered 360. That's the option we need to check here. On a quick note, to check that VJoy is installed and working properly, you'll see a data log down here. You can see that we have VJoy device 1 acquired down here, so we know it's working okay. Going through these settings, use 360Hz telemetry for suspension effects. We want to have this ticked. Also, car specific settings we want to have ticked. Reduce force when parked, ticked. Run on startup, start minimized, completely
Wait, what you said?
personal to you. Want to have this ticked. 360Hz telemetry for suspension effects. We want to have this ticked.
What a hoo-ha now.
Also, car specific settings we want to have ticked. Reduce force when parked. Settings. Use 360Hz telemetry for suspension effects. We want to have this ticked.
Okay.
Also, car specific settings we want to have ticked. Reduce force when parked, ticked. Run on startup, start minimized, completely personal to you. But for me, I personally have them ticked. So minimum force for me, again, personally, I have to 0. Max force, I have at 38. Just be careful with this because more is less and less is more. So it actually works backwards to how you might think it is. So the higher the number, the less force. The lower the number, the more force. Damping, I have set to 5. And then suspension bumps, 35, understeer 30. Understeer offset is basically the amount of time from when the car starts to...
What? Oh, I can't read that.
Understeer 35. And then damping I have set to 5. And then suspension bumps 35, understeer 30. Understeer offset is basically the amount
35. I know I'm just copying this, but I gotta start somewhere, right? Jeez, can you even hear me? Yeah, alright, so I'm copying this because I gotta start somewhere and then I'll see what they are.
Amount of time from when the car starts to understeer to when you feel it. I have 0. SOP is seat of your pants effect. It's going to be more oversteer. I have set to 30 also. And SOP offset I have set to 0. These are personally my preferences when it comes to IRFFB and my use of it, but again, it's all going to be depending on your wheelbase, your driving style, and what you specifically prefer. But next steps, we're going to jump into iRacing, and I'm going to show you how to use it alongside to try get the best out of it. But these settings I will link in a pinned comment down beneath this video, so you can go there and see the settings for yourself if you so prefer. Once you've opened up iRacing, there is one more thing we need to do. If we press and hold escape and we go to options, we need to calibrate the wheel. So once here, click on your steering, and then we need to turn it until it reaches the end of the bump stop, and then all of the way the opposite direction also. So the number you should see here is around 65,000. Bring it back to the middle and just do the normal setup, click done. Turn left 90 degrees, click
All right,
done.
wait up there, buddy.
And then that's all the thing we need to do for yourself if you so prefer. Once you've opened up iRacing, there is one more thing we need to do. If we press and hold escape and we go to options, we need to calibrate the wheel. So once here, click on your steering, and then we need to turn it until it reaches the end of the bump stop, and then all of the way the opposite direction also. So the number you should see here is around 65,000. Bring it back to the middle and just do the normal setup, click done. Turn left 90 degrees, click done. And then our steering is also calibrated. Past this, we need to get out on track. Probably a good thing to do at this point is to have your IRFFB open in a separate.
Why would I have a bump stop? Okay, you said around 65,000. And then to the other, okay. Turn the wheel fully one way and then the other. Then we turn to center. Well, look at that. Ah, this guy's a genius. Okay.
Window, go do a few laps out on track, understand how the car is behaving a little bit differently than the standard iRacing force feedback. That's super important, I think. First is to understand the difference between both before we go about setting different values in the suspension bumps and understeer, off-steer effects also. So personally, I would recommend getting out onto a bumpier track, something like Long Beach or also Sebring. But if installed correctly, you should immediately feel a difference, especially when it comes to understeer and oversteer. You should begin to feel the back end of the car.
Okay, well, this is exciting. Let's see what we got. I mean, look, the wheel itself is great. I mean, again, coming from a G29 to this, it's, you know, it's completely different. But I feel like there's more. It could be better. Oh, wow. I have no feeling. What is going on here? I mean, Like it is dead on for, left and right, but I have no force feedback. What's going on? I feel nothing. What is the deal? I feel nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm doing something wrong. Damn it. It's never that easy, huh?
Step out a lot sooner and a lot more naturally than you would with this 60 Hz iRacing force feedback that you get as default. This naturally comes with the ability to be able to catch slides sooner and generally just be more efficient and direct with your driving and steering inputs. And as I said previously, this will lead to faster lap times and generally just being a cleaner, more efficient, competent and consistent driver on track. So onto some issues I've found since installing and utilizing IRFFB. As I mentioned earlier, if you click on IRFFB and there is no window showing, be sure to navigate down to the bottom right hand side of the screen, click the show hidden icons arrow, and you can access IRFFB from here. In the event that you need to uninstall IRFFB, I've seen this on many forums and it's an issue that I came across and it took me quite a while to troubleshoot on my own. So once here, click on your steering, and then we need to turn it until it reaches the end of the bump stop, and then all of the way the opposite direction also. So the number you should see here is around 65,000. Bring it back to the middle and just do the normal setup, click done. Turn left 90 degrees, click done. And then our steering is also calibrated. Past this, we need to get out on track. Probably a good thing to do at this point is to have your IRFFB open in a separate window, go do a few laps out on track, understand how the car is behaving a little bit differently than the standard iRacing force feedback. That's super important, I think. First is to understand the difference between both before we go about setting different values in the suspension bumps and understeer, off-steer effects also. So personally, I would recommend getting out onto a bumpier track, something like Long Beach or also Sebring. But if installed correctly, you should immediately feel a difference. Especially when it comes to understeer and oversteer, you should begin to feel the back end of the car step out a lot sooner and a lot more naturally than you would.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
what I get
60
too.
Hz iRacing force feedback that you get as default. This naturally comes with the ability to be able to catch slides sooner and generally just be more efficient and direct.
This person
with
said
your
I
driving
hardly
and
have no
steering
strength in this
inputs.
feedback's not even there. That's what I
And
have.
as I said previously, this will lead to faster lap times and generally just being a cleaner, more efficient, competent and consistent driver on track.
Sorry, kids, look away.
So onto some issues I've found since installing and utilizing IRFFB. As I mentioned earlier, if you click on IRFFB and there is no window showing, be sure to navigate down to the bottom right hand side of the screen, click the show hidden
What is the
icons
deal?
arrow, and you can access IRFFB from here. In the event
Maybe
that you
it's
need to
selected the wrong wheel.
uninstall
Let's try this.
IRFFB, I've seen this on many forums and it's an issue that I came across and it took me quite a
Yeah,
while
it's
to
like I have
troubleshoot
no
on my
force
own.
feedback at all.
So if we go to delete
Definitely don't feel
IRFFB,
that. I feel
and we
nothing.
get this error,
Fuck
this
it.
action can't be completed.
Yeah, I didn't feel
File
that
is
either.
Open in IRFFB. To uninstall it, to ensure it's not running.
I have
This
no
will go
feeling
to
in my
Task
wheel.
Manager. So search in the search bar in the
You've got
bottom
wheel
left-hand
damage.
corner. Open up Task Manager, and then you should be able to see the IRFFB.
We've got
32-bit
damage on
here
the back
open
end.
within
Shut
your
up.
Task Manager. If you right
But I
click,
took-
from there you should be able to freely
I still
remove
I have
the
nothing.
software from your computer. In the event that
Wait,
you're
wait, I
using
have a
other
li- I got a
simulators
little
such
feeling
as
there.
ACC, and when you open it up, you realize that there's no force feedback on the wheel.
I have some
Again,
vibration.
what you need to do is ensure that IRFFB is not running in the background. Again, you're going to close down the application. You're going to go to Task Manager, right click on IRFFB.
We got damage on the front end.
It's just vibration. I have a little bit of vibration, that's it.
However, I do prefer to run it, and that's why I'm showing you this way. However, if you do want to run it without VJoy, that's absolutely fine. Just be sure to
Yeah, I
a link to
You've got wheel
the
damage.
Vibration, that's it.
where they go into details about the differences between
We've got
using
damage on the
and
back
not
end.
using VJoy.
We got damage on the front end.
Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope everything was explained clearly and you're now on your way to an overall better iRacing driving experience. If you've watched until the end, be sure to hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more. Until next time, happy racing.
Is generate additional force feedback or have more control and have different force feedback than what you would get out of iRacing out of the box. Now the reason
I'm already subscribed to this guy. I was Gamer Russell's funny.
Was so that you can have
he's good.
higher filtered force feedback. So if you were using a direct drive wheel like the original Simucube with the disco boards and stuff, the iRacing's that frequency wasn't that high and it would feel a little bit grainy and just a little bit unnatural. It didn't feel very rubbery, or it just felt a bit grainy and unnatural. And this application filtered the force feedback and made it smoother. That would also probably apply for wheels like the Clubsport Wheel Base V2 and the CSL Elite and maybe the TSPC Racer. However, the thing is now Fanatec DD1 that I'm using the Podium, DD2, Simucube 2, and all those wheels, they all have interpolation on the software, which is probably better than what this does anyway. So you've got interpolation on the DD wheels, so you don't really need to use that, but I still do, why not? The biggest thing and the biggest reason that I use this and what makes it so good is the specific effect that it has called the seat of the pants effect, which basically adds a G-force type loading field to the force feedback. So as you go around the corner,
no, I still have nothing.
as the back of the car gets loaded up, you feel that force feedback change and the load in the force feedback change to know that when it's at maximum resistance that you can't put any more weight on the side of the tires, or that side that's got the weight on, without risking spinning or going over the limit. This is particularly important in iRacing because of all the simulators, realistic or not realistic, everyone's going to debate that forever. Of all the simulators, iRacing has one of the most punishing limits and most punishing tire models in terms of it. Once you go over the limit, you're pretty much done. And if you're not done in terms of losing control with most cars, you're done in that you're getting a slide that you just have to, a passenger slide that you just have to wait to finish. And the key thing with IRFFB is it lets you feel the car load up before you actually go over the limit, so you can feel an approach to the limit
the forced feedback. Setting up the VJoy is very easy. Adjust
you a little bit differently so you can enhance understeer, oversteer. Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to a very special video. This one is
because
about
I
how
don't
to
have
install
VJoy?
and configure IRFFB in 2021. IRFFB is a program that sits between your wheel and the sim and helps you interpret the signals that the sim is giving you a little bit differently so you can enhance understeer, oversteer, bumps and curb strikes. You get a very different sensation out of your wheel and have more accuracy and be able to react sooner to things that are going on the track. Now I'm just going to show you how to install and configure it and then go over some of the settings, and there's links for everything in the description below so you can just download it.
Do I need to download VJoy also
or
or not?
If you want to see more videos like track guides and race videos, then subscribe to the channel and go over my Discord as well if you have any more questions or just want to hang out.
Come on, buddy, tell me.
Let's get to it.
Yes.
The first thing you want to know is IRFFB actually adds latency. To minimize that as much as you can, you need to install VJoy. It's very simple. There's a link in the description below. Just download it right here.
It's not so much the latency. I have zero anything.
But just click next, 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 and From that point on, you'll have it installed, and I'll show you what you need to do with it in a second. After you installed VJoy, the second stage will be to go to your configure VJoy option. So click the Windows search bar, type in VJoy, configure VJoy, and you'll get this window right here. Make sure you
wait a second,
enable
buddy.
force feedback with all of these effects, and
Okay, click next, just like it says, installing. Yay! Guys, see, this is where I really run into a problem. I can't be making videos on this stuff. I don't even understand it. Although I guess it wouldn't hurt for me to actually be making videos on this rather than just live streaming and you guys seeing all the garbage I go through. What's happening? Oh, I still have just... I just have nothing. I have no feeling at all. I wonder if that was somewhere in my settings. Did I do something in here when I... No, it's all enabled, it's all turned all the way up, just like before. Enable force feedback, use linear, yes. Yes, to all that stuff, but... Ooh, good. I don't have to listen to it in the background. Okay, let's do that.
Access X, after that apply, and you'll never have to see these effects, and you'll get this window.
Oh, no way.
VJoy, configure VJoy, and you'll get this window right here.
I'm sorry,
you enable force feedback with all of these effects, and Access X. After that, apply, and you'll never have to see it again. Just close the program. The next step will be to install IRF, and from installed VJoy, the second stage will be to go to your configure VJoy option. So click the Windows search bar, type in VJoy, configure VJoy, and you'll get this window right here. Make sure you enable force feedback with all of these effects, and Access X. After that, apply, and you'll never have to see it again. Just close the program. The next step will be to install IRFFB. Hit the link in the description, click the IRFFB exe file, and just download it and launch it. The launcher will have everything.
Alright, well, so it said I needed to restart my computer. Sorry, guys. I guess I gotta do that now. Alright, I'll start up the stream as soon as I'm done. I don't know. There's nobody watching anyway. I'm gonna still start it back up, though.